Okay, that's good.
There we go. So we're back live again, and we have Dr. Kristen Haas with us, and we're going to talk a little bit in regards to the food safety program at the agency and how that's all going, and animal cruelty as well. The issue has come up. Well, at your ag agency, as well as Fish and Wildlife, and about nobody sort of being in charge. And we had the commissioner of Fish and Wildlife in, and he said that he works with you folks, or his wardens will go and investigate issues on this, and they're like the point person in regards to animal welfare. And so would you give us a little overview on how that's working, and because I guess, or I thought anyways, that you took care of hoofed animals and they took care of the wild animals, and it seemed good to hear that their wardens were kind of the point people on that. And how's that all working, Kristen?
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity to share a perspective on that. Kristen Haas, Agency of Agriculture. And I will just, I had an opportunity to listen to Commissioner Herrick's testimony, as well as your committee discussion with with Ledge Council. What was that, last week or maybe the week before? So that was definitely helpful to have a better understanding of some of the conversations you've already had. This general conversation has been going on since 2000 or perhaps before. Can you believe that? 2000.
Yeah, I believe 3 years.
It's amazing. So yes, if life was only as clean cut as Agency of Agriculture managing livestock and Department of Fish and Wildlife covering wildlife, but I will say that since there has been the updated collaboration on this front between the Department of Public Safety, specifically state police and others, and the Department of Fish and Wildlife, with the wardens taking over some of or providing support would maybe be the better way to describe it, for some of the boots on the ground activity and following up on some of the complaints regarding or concerns regarding animal welfare. We have continued to play the same role in that structure as we have for many years, with the addition of what I think has gone very well in collaboration with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. I did have an opportunity to check with our animal health staff yesterday. We periodically, talk about how things are going with that communication, and they reported that these are our field-based animal health specialists. The conversations and discussions and collaboration with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, the wardens specifically that serve in their same geographic territories, has gone very well. At the beginning of January, when this shift took place, I did reach out to Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Major Fowler, and we had a discussion about the best way to keep those lines of communication open and effective. And so we established a protocol for if we get calls at the Agency of Agriculture from concerned citizens about a particular issue happening with a livestock or a poultry species, how we triage those calls. And the way that has sort of sugared off is that we were instructed, advised by Fish and Wildlife, that if the location of that animal or group of animals in question is in a place where the state police would have previously or would by default be following up on that, then Fish and Wildlife advised us to advise the caller to reach out to the police dispatch for that area. And that way the call could be documented, cataloged, recorded, and that police dispatch person would know how to triage that inquiry out. So that's what we have done, and it's worked well. And that is coupled with direct communication between our animal health staff, who provide consultation and advisement and technical assistance to the game wardens, coupled with their direct communication with wardens once there is a reason for that collaboration to happen. So I would say overall it's gone very well. I did hear Commissioner Herrick reference that, if I understood him correctly, he acknowledged that the current structure is not necessarily a long-term solution, but for an interim period. I heard him say that he thought it was going well, and our role in that structure has been fine. I would agree that it perhaps is not a long-term solution, but thus far, I think it's as good as we can make it with the resources that we have to bring to bear.
Yeah, I don't know if I may have missed that part. Did you folks hear him say that?
Yeah,
It was short term.
yeah, that he was working with the agency, yeah.
Oh, yeah, they was working with the
Yeah.
agency, but I thought
Oh.
he made it real clear that if you have any animal control problems, you call our wardens I mean, I thought he sounded pretty definite that, and this must be, you said it started in January?
I looked back to see when the conversation was that we had with the department, with their general counsel and Major Fowler, and that conversation was the notation that I wrote from that was early January. So that's what I'm referencing. But I think the mutual aid support that the Department of Fish and Wildlife has been providing to state police predated that by a little bit. And Senator, if I could say, I believe maybe we're talking about two different sets of testimony. I believe that the one that I listened to the recording on was, could that perhaps have been in Senate appropriations when the commissioner
Oh, maybe.
spoke?
Maybe it was in there. Yeah, you hear two committees, you hear basically the same thing, but it depends on the question, what the question is that they're answering.
Yes.
But it just seemed good to me anyways, that at least we finally, I mean, the administration did this, and I'm glad they did have set up a real true point people to, to take care of this, because it's been going on for, forever. And these issues and problems, and some states have, they spend a lot of money dealing with animal welfare, and if we can get away with the agencies, working together and putting effort in, and still make sure that our animals are well cared for, without having a new department or another department within an agency, and then have a half a dozen people mixed up in it, that it seemed a real good way for a small state like ours to deal with this. And so I'm glad to hear everything is going well, 3 months or 2 months into it. But next year, maybe we'd have, next winter when we come back, we'll have a year's experience and see how it's all going, and if it's working well for taking care of our animals that really deserve being taken care of properly.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So is there like a formal memorandum between the agency and the department? And the other question I'm kind of curious about, Doctor, is that the incident that prompted this was the goat situation, if I'm remembering right. Was this already in place when that event happened, or did you sort of get together as a result and maybe in response to that?
In answer to your first question, there is not a formal memorandum of any sort that I'm aware of, and hopefully I would be aware of it if it existed. But instead, what we have done, I mean, we work closely with the Department of Fish and Wildlife on a number of programs and initiatives, and as you've already noted, we have some aligned responsibilities. So it was quite easy when they took on the role that they took on from as mutual aid to state police for us to reach out with our long-term colleagues and say, all right, here's the new format. How do we want to do this to be most efficient? And so that was a conversation that we then codified in writing. I codified in writing internally for our administrative staff in the agency and those who answer the phone, so that they would have a good understanding of how to direct these calls in an efficient manner. So
Okay.
that is the formality or lack thereof that currently exists. And again, this is a role that we have fulfilled all along. It's just a matter of the partners and those who are responsible for carrying out the criminal investigation and enforcement if necessary. That's changed a little bit, but for us, it hasn't been too much of a change. And I apologize. Your second question was, would you mind repeating that?
Yeah, the incident that took place that sort of highlighted what we thought might be a problem we could fix, but it sounds like you guys have already kind of started to fix it. So maybe we don't need to get involved too much, but I'd be curious, what was the chronology there? Did it happen and then you said to them, hey, geez, we got to get together and figure this out, or was it already in place? And then if it was, how did it work out in that one particular instance?
Yep. So our role, the Agency of Agriculture's role, was already in place because that's been a statutory, responsibility for it predates me. I'm not sure how long it's been in place, but it predates me. So at least 15 years and probably a lot longer than that. And I would have to default to either the Department of Fish and Wildlife or Department of Public Safety to give you an accurate answer on whether their collaboration was in place at that time. And this was, I believe, it was the end-ish of last summer. But what I do know is that when that call came to us, we, and I remember it because I was on vacation. So I remember sitting in Maine on the porch of a cottage, spending a couple of hours calling around, trying to find out who was responsible. I talked to the town clerk of the town in question. We talked to state police. We talked to the Department of Fish and Wildlife. I talked to the Humane Society investigator. There were lots of conversations that I and Secretary Tebbetts engaged in to try and figure out who to appropriately, delegate or refer this inquiry to. And so that's where a lot of the, I think, frustration stemmed from. And I share that frustration. It was challenging to figure out in that particular instance who is vested with the authority, who has that responsibility in that particular town to actually follow up on these cases. I do know that both I and Secretary Tebbetts communicated with the Department of Fish and Wildlife on that case in that time, in those couple of hours, which leads me to believe that there must have been, some change in that structure on their end by that point, but I couldn't say confidently that it had been formalized by that.
Okay, that's fair.
No, so it sounds like it got more formal after
Yeah.
that created.
Yeah.
But sounds like you folks from, you know, the Ag Agency, Fish and Wildlife, State Police, that brought it to a head to the point where you folks at the top of the line decided, hey, somebody's got to be in charge here. And you set up a system to take care of that. And that, you know, that's very good, a very good response to a very sad situation. So are there other questions for Kristen? Well, did you have anything else for us, Kristen?
Just, I know that there has been lots of discussion and well, maybe more discussion than testimony about the Maine state program. So I did have an opportunity, I believe that was the beginning of last week, to talk with the veterinarian who works within that program. So I got some helpful feedback from her and a little bit better understanding of how that program is currently operating. So if at any point that's of interest to the committee, I'd be happy to share some points from that conversation.
Well, I don't think any of us are really excited about making a new department. But if was something in that discussion that legislatively you think would be helpful to taking care of our animals better or in a more humane way, you know, I think we would be glad to hear about that and any, you know, if it was a policy change of some type that you couldn't do in-house, if you need legislation in any way, shape, or form to make that all work better, that would be helpful.
I don't think there was anything that I took from my conversation with her that struck me as a single point of legislative language that would make the world a hugely better place. What I took away from the conversation was the fact that she stressed quite consistently and emphatically that if there is going to be a change in structure, then it's important to have that be a holistic change and a comprehensive change that's significant enough that the resources are brought to bear to do the job well. So I posed to her the concept of, you know, having a position in state government somewhere, if that were to exist, to be the intake person, you know, for calls coming from the public. And she stressed that while that would be a component part of a successful response program, it would not be the only part, because that person then would have to have one or multiple places to refer those calls to and to have action take place and resolve the issue at hand. So so that's no different than I know what we've discussed over many years. But that was again my takeaway from her conversation, my conversation with her.
Well, I think next year we'll have a year behind us to look back upon and maybe to be able to improve upon. And if you folks and Fish and Wildlife and state police, come up with some ideas and changes, because it's overwhelming the way you're doing it now, or it's coming up short. We'll try to remember to get you in early in January to give us an overview, so that if something needs to be done, we'll have ample time to get it taken care of and passed, because we have worked on this forever and there always seems to be a problem creeping up on us and, you know, so we need to do a better job taking care of our animal welfare and we'll see how this works, in the meantime and get back at it in January, get an overview from you and the commissioner, to see how it's been going. Does that
Sounds great. We'd be happy to
Sounds good.
provide that.
make any sense?
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, makes good sense.
Yeah.
Then
So,
I would just, in closing, like to say, I express my appreciation for the work that the game wardens are doing, and the Department of Public Safety. It's a heavy lift. Our staff speak very, very highly of the job that they're doing and the diligence that they're doing it with. And we have a good working relationship with the wardens and appreciate their collaboration on this topic.
well, thank you very much, Kristen. Sorry to hold you up there earlier, but
No problem.
we wanted to get that commissioner, secretary of yours confirmed, and we had just had so many questions. No, we really appreciate all the work you folks do over across the street from us and you know, the good job that you all do and it was mentioned several times during the hearing how talented the group of people from ag, you know, regardless of what department, they're well versed and do a good job over when they come over for testimony. So thanks a lot for all you do and we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to chat about this. And yes, I'm impressed with the work my colleagues do on both sides of State Street. So, and you all as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay, take care.
Yeah. So it sounds like things are going.
Yeah.
better.
Way to figure out the solution.
Responsive.
But next winter, it'll be important to get her in and
That goat thing was in the summer, I guess, wasn't it? In the fall, maybe.
well, it's when they were born, because they were babies. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought they had to do their kids in the spring.
maybe.
Yeah.
But, it was not a very pleasant situation, and can't imagine anybody letting that happen to their animals.
Now, if you want to make the front page,
Well,
that's the way to do it.
somebody should go to jail on that day. You don't do something like that. I mean, there's always somebody that will come forth with feed or what the heck ever if they were notified in advance. You know, but I did take them down to something from the fire. But anyways, it's good that Herrick, the commissioner, Herrick stepped up and we finally got a little bit of an organization here. But we may have to give Dr. Haas, you know, I guess it would be set up in that area. If that doesn't work, we may have to go that route. So anyways, anything else for this morning?
No. I'm sure we'll see each other for quite a few hours this afternoon.
Yeah, that'll be painful. No, it went good yesterday. Though.
Yep.
So, anyways, I guess we're
Gonna go eat.